Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm back today with our resident engineer, Mike Herzog. How's it going today, Mike?
Doing great, David. Sun's shining, spring's here. I got a bounce in my step. It's a good time to be in the Midwest.
Nice, nice. I was noticing I need to take my parka out of my trunk. I always keep a parka back there just in case of an
Oh
emergency,
yeah,
tire
yeah.
goes flat, something
We're
like
in the
that.
Midwest.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think we're done with you know, with that part of the year where I
I
need
did that with
emergency gear.
kids' coats. They've got 18 of them sitting around. Like you don't need that anymore. It's not going to fit next year. Let's start clearing it out. We're finally over that hump.
Yeah, well, last week when it was you and I, we had a guest with the last name of Ferrari, so we're going to start out with Ferrari again today.
Yeah,
Okay. Um, Although it was interesting listening to him, he was saying, or the town I'm from, almost everybody's named
yeah. That's a
Ferrari.
very common name. Whereas
Yeah,
both you and I were like Ferrari. Like any relation?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just, no.
Well, it was really funny was on LinkedIn when I was chatting with him, somebody else chatted. I don't have the best reading vision, and I thought it was him, but the guy had asked a question about real estate, and it didn't occur to me that I had two conversations going with people last name Ferrari at the
Huh.
same time, and I was like, oh, that's random. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, so Ferrari just is announcing a Ferrari EV SUV. It's an exclusive electric car worth waiting for. Now,
Does
what I
Ferrari
find
make EV or SUVs right now?
so they just started, and I know they have one. I haven't really seen it.
Okay.
Okay, so Lamborghini's had the Urus for a few
Yeah,
years, and
yeah,
it's been highly successful for them. In fact, Lamborghini's got a coming out soon. They've got a plug-in hybrid Urus,
yeah. Mhm.
and but here is what this is going to look like. Now, this is a crossover essentially.
Looks like a crossover. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
it's
it's
a
got
little taller.
the Ferrari curves on it. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah, it sure has that Ferrari look to it. But let me see. It's the start of a new era for the famous Italian automaker. Now, I've seen plug-in hybrid Ferraris. There's been some, and the electric motor was probably more of a, what do they call it? Well, so there's some mild hybrids, right?
Mhm.
But this particular one, I saw it plugged in. I saw where it was actually on like a
The
level two
actual plug.
charger.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it was in a car showroom. Okay, so it wasn't like out on the street or anything like that, but it was like $950,000.
Yeah.
But it was something to enhance the perform. It wasn't so much of it for, getting good gas mileage. It was
Yeah.
for, creating
It's something in the
more
drivetrain
acceleration.
gives you a
Yeah,
little more acceleration or something like that.
yeah. Um, Ferrari plans to sell V12 engines until they're banned. They'll need an electric car or two on hand to keep various regulatory bodies at bay. Well, one of the things that's unique about Ferrari, they are the highest profit per car of any manufacturer. So number two for several years has been Tesla, but Ferrari's been the number one in the world for that, and that's one of the things like Tesla. I think they said their average cost to build a car is about $30,000. Okay,
Mhm.
which makes their cheapest ones harder
Right
to make
there.
profit
Pretty
on.
rare.
But
Yeah.
then when they're selling, the Model S and the Model X, they're really raking in the bucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, um, but Ferraris may remain tight-lipped thus far about the platform, but thoughts are that it's a modified Maserati Levant bodywork with Ferrari Roma headlights. Now, I've driven a Levant; they're nice. That's the Maserati SUV.
Yeah, yeah.
You see a few of those
I
around
see him
town.
around town. I see him
Yeah,
around.
it's a popular. It's not as expensive as you would think. When you think Maserati, you'd think of some supercar or something like that. But you can get the Levant. I think they're down around 70,000. On the low end,
What?
like for base trim.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
I would
they're
get
they're
for like
no more expensive than
152,
Porsche.
or
They're
something like that for
yeah, they're
that.
no more expensive than a Porsche, like a low end Porsche Cayenne
Mhm.
or Porsche Macan. So,
Huh.
but let's see. Let me see. They're looking to build 6,000 units. They're going to build EVs on the same assembly line as hybrid and combustion only. Of course, those are basically handmade cars, right?
I
So
was
they're
going to
not.
say, like, the line approach to that's a little bit misleading because I don't think it's traditional, Ford assembly line. We're stamping these things out 1,000 a day. I think it's a little more special than that.
So that they currently have two plug-in hybrid models, the S5090 Stradale and the 296 GTB. I think it's the SF90 that I've seen before. There aren't many competitors in the class yet. The Maserati Gran Turismo Fulgor and the Rolls-Royce Spectre could be seen as challengers despite their differing missions. Depending on the level, the Ferrari EV's performance could even challenge electric supercars like the Rimac Nevera.
See, I'm really curious about seeing this and what they come out with, where they're kind of unapologetically saying this is not for the environment. Like, this is, well, kind of, we want to keep regulators out. We might have this on here, but somebody designing it for performance and taking an EV and saying, what can I do with an electric motor? And put that out there. Because I think it'd be real fun to drive it. A Leaf is kind of fun to drive sometimes, where you have that acceleration in there. But if somebody's really focused on that and saying, I'm going to re-engineer this or reimagine it from the perspective of, I want this thing to haul butt and be very fun to drive and utilize electric motors for that. I think that could be, fun to see, really fun to see out there.
Oh yeah, there's no question. I think, one of their questions is, can people deal with this? One of the big thrills of the supercars is how loud the exhaust is. And you see some of them that are designed so it spits fire out the exhaust.
Yeah.
Right. And, it's just not as exciting. I'll be in a parking lot getting my car and I'll hear the light whir of an electric motor, and I don't even realize that there's somebody around, but I can just hear that little noise that sounds more like a watch. It's like a louder clock.
I will agree. There is something to when you hear one of those, even from a distance, like, ooh,
yeah,
but that's a nice car.
Yeah, I saw a Jeep Trackhawk, passing. That's like an 800 horsepower Jeep Cherokee. Okay, and the noise of it, is just like, it's just a great sound. If nothing else, it's just a great sound.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah. I remember I had a car back in the 90s with Z-rated radials, and they were only Z-rated were rated to go as fast as I think 190 or something like that. And my car was capable of like 160. I never took it that fast, but cars are so much faster than that now. You've got a lot of these 800 horsepower cars, they probably do 200 miles per hour.
Wow.
It's just nuts to think about some of these things that are out there now. Yeah, the tires are always going to be a limiter. So Ferrari expects the new EV to go on sale. They're going to officially reveal it on October 9th. It'll go on sale in early 26 with a starting price above 500,000. But even then, you can't just go in and buy a Ferrari. If you don't already own one, so you have to buy a used one first. It's just like how Porsche has
telling me about that, where it's very hard to get one.
Yeah, you can't just go order that car. You have to already have one. And it's kind of like I probably told you about the thing with Porsche, where there's one model you can't buy unless you've owned 10 Porsches.
Yeah,
and they've had people go and buy 10 used Porsches just so they can buy that car. Yeah.
Good problem to have, I suppose.
Yeah, when you've got unlimited money. Money's absolutely not a problem for you. You just go set it on fire. Yeah. Anyways, all right, let's switch over to, I got something on Jeff Bezos. So there's this company called Slate, which is trying to build a $25,000 electric pickup truck in the United States.
That's cool.
Okay. And Bezos is backing this. It's teasing its electric truck with fake businesses. Now, I don't know exactly what this means. I didn't even look at the article, but they got a whole bunch of press because somebody had one on a flatbed taking it from some testing site somewhere else.
Oh, so got
Okay.
pictures of it,
And
got
people got some
that.
pictures,
Okay.
and this is about a week ago. It was all over. Pictures of this. One random person took this picture of this electric truck sitting up on a flatbed that nobody'd seen before. It was obviously different than anything else that's out there. And so they have a real reveal event scheduled for tomorrow. Okay. The vehicles have been teased to a wider audience.
And the brand is Slate, or is that just the parent
Slate.
company, or it's going to be
Slate.
like a
That's the
Slate?
name of the company. Automotive company Slate is the name of the company. Let's see. A post on Reddit is where it was originally shown. Uncovered a Slate vehicle sitting on a street in Venice, California, wearing a strange camouflage wrap. The website for the company promoted on the vehicle is actually a Slate teaser page with a countdown clock. Let's see.
And so Bezos personally or Amazon is
I think it's Jeff as himself. I mean, he does. He's got a he's got his own people to go out and invest in things. You don't go pitch Jeff there. I mean, you might if it's big enough money, but he has a crew
I
of
was
people.
thinking more from if Amazon was getting into that space and looking at it, or if they're still tied in with Rivian and whoever else. But I mean, Jeff Bezos is also a person in the world and sitting on a big pile of money. He can do whatever he wants with, so he can do that personally as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty plain looking truck, when you look at this, but nothing, no fancy wheels. It's just a two-seater.
Don't exist in the combustion engine space anymore. I mean, just a two-door pickup truck.
Well, think about this. You've got the Ford Maverick, right? I was even looking to see, you can pick up a used Ford Maverick now with the hybrid motor or whatever, that gets really good gas mileage. It gets like 42 city and 36 highway.
That's
the
wild.
Ford pickup, but it's a extended cab with only like a 4.5-foot bed or something like that, or maybe a 5-foot bed. Whereas this has just a 2-seater cab, which is plenty. K trucks would sell if they were priced right. But this does fill a niche, and with only having 2 seats in there, you certainly are going to, there's how many people are riding around with 4 people? I mean, if you don't have a family, you really don't need those extra seats.
Sometimes you just need a truck. You need that bed back there. You need space. And it doesn't have to be fancy, serving the purpose of a truck.
Yeah, but this looks like good basic transportation. There's that other one, that Trello truck or whatever it is, that is basically has the same footprint as a Mini Cooper. It's just really small, right?
Going to Europe and seeing all their tiny little trucks. So comically tiny, but it's a little truck, and I can haul some mulch or do whatever in it, just get around. But it's just so out of place when you think of a truck. They're like, hey, okay, it's got to function out there.
Yeah. There was another sample car that was shared in the article that just doesn't necessarily apply. I don't think this is Slate, but who knows what this one is? I
don't know. That's almost got like a Range Rover feel to it.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, I don't think this is. Who knows? That might be something that somebody brought over from China.
Yeah, could be that too.
That seems more likely. But anyways, they're supposed to announce it tomorrow. So Jeff Bezos is funding it. He's put up 1.3 billion into the startup. So that's a pretty good chunk of money. The folks running this company are all auto industry veterans. There are female leaders as both CEO and head of design. Many employees move from other car companies like Ford, GM, Stellantis, and Harley Davidson to be part of Slate. Manufacturing is rumored to be located in Indiana, which would kind of make sense. You have a lot of, people to make RVs, trucks. You got, like Lordstown. You've got all these RV makers that, and a lot of them make EV related products. How to place compared to a lifted 3/4 ton truck in a mall parking lot? Yeah, maybe, but yeah, are you really? If you're lifting the truck, are you really using it for work? It's hard to fathom why. It wouldn't really be a very comparable vehicle, that's for sure. And that lifted truck probably be worth $80,000-$90,000 versus a $25,000 EV if they're really bringing this to market. That's been the story, is that Slate's bringing a $25,000 EV. That would be pretty cool if that really.
What's so fun in this space right now is I've never heard of Slate, until 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, and it's just another competitor out there entering a private company, privately funded, bringing people from other organizations who know how to run car companies and design cars, and it always makes you think like, well, what the heck else is out there? That's just percolating in the background and kind of waiting for one of these new announcements to come out. But it's just a really fun market to watch right now.
So you remember when we had Jigger on here, his comment was, unless you're really like in the supercar space or you're doing something exotic with super high profit margins, if you're not going to reach 400,000 cars a year, then you're probably not going to make it in the space. Well, maybe that could sell 400,000 at 25 grand. That might be a real winner. But we'll see. I mean, do people like, in our part of the country, like big trucks, right? But maybe small trucks would do well. You look at how many people do like food delivery and different things like that. If it's an EV, who knows what the range would be? But right now batteries are getting so cheap, they might be able to make that thing. Maybe it only has, let's say, 150-mile range or something like that. But still, that's enough for a good commuter.
It's great.
And no reason. We've had all of these vehicles like that, like the Fiat 500e, with 80-mile range. It's great for just a commuter vehicle.
Back and forth every day. Plug it in at night. You're great. Yeah.
There's no reason you couldn't have a small pickup truck be the same way, right? Yeah. And so that's probably what we're going to see. But I bet it has more than 100-mile range on it. I'm just betting. Yeah, that's a pretty good point.
Good comment.
Yeah. Really, if you're going to tow, you need a 2500 series truck anyways, so if you're doing any serious towing, because even if you tow with a 1500 class truck, your rear end is sliding around. It's not real stable driving all the time. Whereas when you get to the heavy dutier trucks, you just have a better feel on the road with that trailer. So yeah, it's definitely a different feel. All right, so I'm trying to see. My next article didn't come with any pictures. This is kind of upsetting. Mercedes unveils new luxury electric limousine van series. Ooh. Now, I don't know if have you ever ridden around in some of the Sprinter vans that are made up, like for traveling. Yeah, so you basically you have your front two people like you do in any other van, but then they'll have like, the Mercedes usually has like 4 rows of captain's chairs and then a bed in the back. Okay, and so you can comfortably seat 10,
and then there's space in the back.
Yeah, and then there's some overhead space where somebody else could sleep, and they're tall, and they've got all kinds of TVs in them and stuff like that. I've got a doctor friend here that he's got 6 kids, and that's how he travels, is with his Mercedes Sprinter. It's a large vehicle.
Like shuttling, a multi-hour shuttle from an airport to a destination kind of thing, and that seemed like, it was like, ooh, this is pretty sweet. But now they're doing an EV one.
Yeah, so they're Mercedes all electric luxury Sprinter van. The all-new e-Sprinter. Let me see here. There's got to be. Oh yeah, man, you're just gonna love this, man. It looks like a. Look at that. It's just a plain white van. I mean, it couldn't be any plainer than that. I thought maybe there'd be a little more to this. It's like, yeah, there's like nothing.
Nope, that's it.
Yeah, that's what you get. You get a white van. Um, oh man, that's just. I was really hoping there'd be a little more to it. They're coming out with it in 2026. Let's see but my article came from Reuters, and Reuters likes to disappoint me. It'll have lounge chairs you can fold down into bed, huge screens, turn the interior into a private cinema or karaoke bar.
Very specific.
Yeah. Well, if you're seating 10 people in there, we're convinced there's enormous potential in China and around the world for a new segment like this. Like many other foreign automakers, Mercedes-Benz sales have dropped in China, hit hard by stiff competition from local rivals as a sputtering economy saps consumer confidence. In China, its car sales fell 7% last year and 10% in the first quarter, while van sales tumbled 20% last year and 39% in the first quarter. The thing is, the Chinese are building nice cars of their own, and their own population is starting to respect them. That's been one of the things, is they haven't necessarily expected or respected their own.
It's forever foreign cars a status symbol. I mean, it was just you made it if you're driving a foreign vehicle.
Let's see. Yeah, well, we'll see. I was kind of disappointed, but I can't find any non-camouflage pictures of the vehicle. Anyways,
I bet they can pack a hell of a lot of batteries on that thing. I think that's going to be able to haul, go for a long ways.
Oh God! I didn't even really think about that. Yeah, I really wonder, because like the Cadillac Escalade EQ has a range of like 450 miles.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some big damn batteries on it. Okay, I haven't looked to see how many kilowatt hours of batteries they have, but I'm sure it's at least 210.
Yeah. I'm sure it's crazy. And you just look at the chassis size on that Mercedes vehicle, like, wow, if you pack that thing with batteries, that's a lot. That's like a portable power station driving.
You're gonna have to pull into the weigh stations and weigh.
Can't do the trick where you empty your tank either.
Right.
Those are always the fun ones. You see the gas station, 200 feet down the road from the weigh-in station, where everybody's pulling up to weigh in on empty.
Oh God.
Yeah.
All right. So a company called Verge just open sourced electric bikes the way Raspberry Pi did for computers. Now, this is interesting. I don't know if this is actually a picture of one of their bikes, but they have this donut motor that goes in the wheels for electrification. And what they're saying is they're going to give away all the technology. So if anybody wants to make electric motorcycles, can make electric motorcycles, which is kind of interesting. I know that Tesla offered a lot of their technology out to anybody who wanted to use it. And because Musk was trying to get more people to get into the space, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the feeling is that if more people are selling EVs, it's actually good for Tesla.
Yeah, it creates a stronger market for sure.
Yeah. So the Raspberry Pi allowed pretty much anyone to build their own computing device. You didn't have to rely on larger, bulky models. You could just put together your own computer, configure it to be exactly the kind of device you wanted it to be. Now, what Verge is doing here is bringing that plug-and-play simplicity to electric bikes by practically open sourcing its own e-bike framework. Their new business-to-business arm, called Verge Next, will help pretty much any third party, whether it's just a one-off hobbyist or a mobility company, build their own e-bikes directly on Verge's open platform. Let's see. Their hubless rear wheel, powered by the company's famed donut engine, is both a visual showstopper and a functional revelation. It integrates the motor into the wheel rim It eliminates traditional drive chains or belts, resulting in fewer mechanical losses, a cleaner design, and notably smoother torque delivery. So here's a close-up of what that looks like. It's really interesting that there's, it's just different. There's no like chains or anything. Cool. Yeah, it's a completely different design. It's a tech licensing. So VergeNext is a tech licensing arm that operates like a sandbox, a space where manufacturers can play with proven hardware and software stacks, build on them, tweak them, and get to market without reinventing the wheel. At the core, good pun. At the core is the Donut engine developed by their partner company, Donut Lab. I've heard about them before. We've talked about them just briefly. It's scalable, adaptable, and designed for integration across a range of vehicle formats. Need a compact version for an urban commuter bike? Done. Want a higher output variant for a sportier electric motorcycle? Also done. They've demonstrated how the system integrates seamlessly into two-wheelers of multiple types, from sports bikes to cafe racers to scooters and even more skeletal dirt bike style riders. They give some examples of some of their designs.
That's cool. And I like that. Like it's neat that they're out open sourcing everything and what it looks like, but I also appreciate it from, we know we've got something cool here. Like let's let other people play with it and see what they can do and see if they can really make an improvement here. So that's,
I'm sure part of this is to sell for Donut Labs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to sell that rear electric motor.
They're moving product. Yeah. I mean, it's not licensed, but at the end of the day, you're still selling
it.
The equipment. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's part of their intent, but they strike me as being sort of like Bill. Bill really wants to see people transition to smaller transportation that, doesn't require so much energy, right? Because, I get these arguments. I'll have people that aren't in the space, especially with some of the stuff I've told you I'm doing now, that I get more people complaining about, oh yeah, your electric vehicle uses all this coal to power it or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but if it was one of these, it's going to take a whole lot less coal, right?
Then all of a sudden, it's that chain of energy becomes a lot more effective or a lot cleaner.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? 1 pound of coal is roughly 1 kilowatt hour.
Something like that.
When it comes from a super efficient coal-based modern power plant, right? That's about where math works. That'll drive an EV about most EVs about 3.5 miles. And but it's still 3 times as efficient as a gas car.
As far even when you look at the entirety of that cycle and that system that brings it to it, it's still more efficient. If it was and the grid makeup anymore, I mean, coal's such a small percentage compared to where it was 5 or 10 years ago.
This one looks like a wooden bike. It looks like it's a bunch of dowels. It's not, but it kind of looks like
they're interesting concepts. I mean, here's a little delivery bike. Here's a sport bike. Here's a scooter.
Yeah, that one looks more traditional. Looks like 2 people could sit on that one if they had to. So that's kind of fun. That's kind of a fun look at e-bikes, which
I like it.
I typically don't bring those up so much on the show. All right, let's talk about the okay, so this picture, you're going down the road and somebody is driving really slow in front of you. They're probably older. And what car are they probably driving? What brand?
I was Buick or Cadillac.
There you go, Buick. We're going to talk about Buick, okay? If somebody's really slow in front of you, they're probably driving a Buick. Buick cars tend to be ultra reliable, but the truth is nobody really drives them that far or drives them that much or very fast.
Buick is a Sunday car. You're just going out and
It's just like Lincolns. Lincoln cars tend to really hold up well in certain ratings, and the truth is people just aren't needing to get them repaired much. They don't drive them much.
10 years old and has 25,000 miles on
it.
Just because it's been in a garage for 90% of its life.
Yeah. Years ago, I bought like a Ford Taurus that was 10 years old, but had like 20,000 miles on it. Yeah. And I bought it for like $3,000. The guy's grandmother had died and he inherited it and wanted to sell it. It's like, I'll take that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
And it drove great. It drove great. I think eventually I sold it to another relative for probably about the same amount of money a few
Yeah.
years later. And I think it eventually got turned into some kind of farm vehicle. I think somebody might have removed the roof. It was mechanically, it worked really well.
Hmm.
Okay, so Buick is now so big in China, it has its own sub brand called Electra. The new Electra brand will only sell hybrids and EVs, but it's a Buick brand.
So I always use that when I teach courses on EVs and everything. And most of it's on the technical side, but talking about brands available, and it's always, did you know Buick makes all EVs, but they're only available in China? Like Buick. Can you think of
Yeah,
a more like quintessential American, just good old car? You got yourself a Buick, but it's, yeah, the Chinese availability of like all EVs that we don't get here. We just don't see
right.
them here. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. So I don't think there's still an electric Buick EV in the United
I
States,
don't think you can get
but
one. I don't think you
they've had four different models over in China for
Yeah,
several years, and it's just funny to think that what's going on now.
Buick.
There's this Chinese company called SAIC, and so um, Buick has sold 10 million cars in China in the past 30 years.
Wow.
That's a lot of cars. They're jumping on the sub-brand bandwagon by launching a separate marquee for so-called new energy vehicles. And that's the term they use in China
That's
for
what they
plug-in
use.
hybrids and
Okay.
purely electric. The company Electra will start off with three cars, the Encasa luxury minivan that surfaced earlier this week. The People Mover will be offering both plug-in hybrid and EV once it goes on sale later this year. Within the next 12 months, it'll be joined by an EV and a sedan. And they give me
Isn't Electra a model name from somebody else? Maybe I'm thinking Buick Electra. Maybe
Buick used to
that's
have a car called the Electra,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
which wasn't electric.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, here's your car, your sedan, here's your SUV,
Small
here's your
SUV and
van.
here's your van.
All cool looking vehicles that you can't buy in
You
America.
can't get in America. Buick, all electric Buicks in China that you can't get in the USA. That's
You know,
wild. That's
one of the big questions, though, there's been is the Buick EVs in China hadn't been keeping up with the quality of the
Chinese
Chinese
made.
EVs.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and yeah, so
that's
that's
just
been
bad. I mean, just framing that and thinking, would you have this conversation, if you're looking forward from 10 years ago? Yeah, the Chinese, all Chinese manufactured ones, Buick is not keeping up with them. The Buicks that aren't available in the United States. Huh? What a incredibly shifting dynamic and market.
yeah.
That's just wild.
So Buick intends to launch 6 new electric vehicles on the new Zhao Yao architecture, tailored not just to yeah, I know, not tailored not just to
Boy, man,
plug-in
if
hybrids
you
and
said
EVs.
Chow Wow, and Buick comes right to mind when you
Oh man. Um, let's see. Mazda is also trying to do a vehicle called the EZ60 crossover that's going to use an internal combustion engine as a generator to charge the battery pack. Um, let's see. So that's kind of what Buick is going to do. So their plug-in hybrids are really just going to be a range extending gas engine.
kind
It's
of like
not
what is it,
really.
Dodge did that, Dodge Rams. Is that their plan?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The Ram EV um, is doing that, or what they call it,
Whatever.
the REV.
Yeah.
It's what is it, 150-mile battery and another about 450 miles from the gas generator. Yeah, which, like I said before, that kind of solves the challenge with towing.
Towing. Yep.
Yeah, for an EV, because that vehicle has about a 700-mile range, but if you're towing, you're probably only going to get maybe 250.
But still,
but that's still decent range. Although it would suck if you did that and then you had to go to a charging station to fill that 150 miles and then run over to the gas station. Yeah. So, but that's only going to happen when you're towing.
You got your gas station nozzle and your EV plug right at the same time. Solve it.
Can I get a really long cable from the charger that runs over here while I put some gas in here too? Yeah.
Don't mix them up.
Right. Yeah. Let's see. The Buick's going to use LFP batteries from Cattle and support a maximum charging power of 640 kilowatts. That's pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be pretty fast charging. Buick claims that a 10-minute charge will provide enough juice for 217 miles.
10 minutes.
10 minutes, 217 miles of range. Now, that's some of the Bill and I were talking about this yesterday. There's some stuff going on with Cattle and BYD that they're getting into that 40 to 50 miles per minute of charging added to the battery.
Wow. But that's not through like a swap. That's through good old traditional.
That's actual, yeah. But they're using one of the charging stations was like 1.2 megawatts. And I'm just like, oh yeah, you could power 400 homes, or you could charge the car.
Charge your car in 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, wow. You're charging it, everybody's lights go out. Yeah, that's a lot of power. I was thinking about that with a like 10 megawatt nuclear reactor, and you could be charging 6 cars.
Yeah, you can charge a handful of cars.
Put them at a charging station.
Mr. Fusion down in the parking lot.
But anyways, now this is a nice look. They actually gave us some interior shots. Now, Buicks are always nice inside. Okay, Buick. That's one of the things Buick's known for. This is a really classy looking interior. Oh. Yeah. I mean, just you got the Buick logo there.
It looks nice. Yeah.
That's a good look. That is a good look. Although this is a long ways to reach over for your radio controls, but maybe it's got autopilot so you can sit and do all kinds of stuff. Who knows? But
that's cool. Yeah. That's, like I said, I've always cited Buick as one of those like ahas to people who don't follow this space. Like Buick has had EVs for years, but you can't buy one here. They're only in China.
Yeah, it's just odd that that's been the case, and but the American market just isn't in love with EVs. It's so funny. I see so many people talk about how I'd never own an EV. It's like they're just a bunch of crap or whatever. And it's like, but it's people making a weird statement on, I think, politics. For some reason they think that there's interesting Snapdragon. That people fear there's something inherently too liberal about driving an EV, and like it conflicts with their political affiliations. And
there was a lot of truth to that 20 years ago. And it was, and I don't want to overjudge or conflate people, but you think of who was driving an EV and how their politics aligned when it was not even like leading adapters or adopters. It was people, it was a novelty. So oh yeah, I've also got one that runs on recycled vegetable oil and this and that and everything in an electric vehicle. But now it's different. I would say 2025 is different, but 2020 was different. I mean, with Tesla in there, I mean it's a legitimate automobile, and it makes sense. It just makes sense. When you strip everything else aside and just look at performance, cost, the reliability that they have right now. I mean, it's in operating costs, maintenance, everything. It makes a lot of sense where it's at today.
No, it really does. Well, anyways, that's all I had to cover for today. And I'll be back with Bill tomorrow, and Mike and I will be back next week. All right.